Gentlemen, let me begin with a simple but important question. Have you ever tried to please your partner, really tried to make her feel good, but for some reason, it just didn't seem to work? You were focused, attentive, maybe even doing everything you believed was right, yet the reaction you hoped for never came. Perhaps she seemed distracted, distant, or simply not as responsive as you expected. In that moment, it's easy to wonder what went wrong. The truth is, you are far from alone in that confusion. Countless men find themselves in that same position, willing, caring, and genuinely trying, yet missing the deeper connection that makes intimacy effortless and mutual. The reason behind this isn't lack of effort, nor is it a lack of passion. It's a misunderstanding about how desire actually works for women. For most men, desire functions like a switch. It can be instant, a thought, a glance, a scent, and the signal fires almost automatically. But for women, that process is far more intricate. It's not a switch, it's a gradual ignition. It needs emotional and physical alignment before it catches fire. And until that alignment happens, no amount of mechanical technique will produce the kind of connection that feels real. This is where most men unknowingly go wrong. They assume that arousal is primarily physical, that touch alone drives response. But female arousal is as much emotional and neurological as it is physical. It's not about what you do, it's about the state you help create. When a woman feels emotionally secure, when her mind registers safety and desire, her body follows in ways that are natural and unforced. But when she senses pressure, distraction, or performance anxiety, even subtle forms, her body resists, no matter how much she may want to feel pleasure. The reason lies deep in the human nervous system. Female arousal is tied directly to the parasympathetic nervous system, the same part that governs relaxation and emotional openness. If her brain is in alert mode, thinking, analyzing, or sensing tension, her body physically cannot reach full arousal. It's a biological truth, not an emotional shortcoming. That's why the key to real foreplay is not a specific move or routine. It's the ability to shift her body and mind into a state of safety, warmth, and anticipation. Most men were never taught this. Instead, they learned through trial and error or cultural cues that emphasize technique over connection. They were told to learn tricks, memorize steps, or follow a script. But human intimacy doesn't work that way. What matters most is awareness, understanding how her body, emotions, and senses intertwine. When you approach foreplay from that understanding, the pressure disappears. You're no longer guessing. You're attuning. You're reading her, listening without words, and responding with sensitivity. That is what creates connection, and connection is what awakens genuine desire. Many men mistakenly believe that foreplay starts with touch, but it actually begins long before that moment. It starts with your presence, the tone of your voice, the calm in your breathing, the steadiness of your attention. These things communicate far more to her body than any word or gesture could. When you make her feel seen, not judged, when your energy is relaxed rather than impatient, her nervous system interprets that as safety. And once she feels safe, her body begins to open naturally. This is why so many well-intentioned men fail to create the response they want. They focus on the external actions, touch, kissing, stimulation, without realizing that the internal environment isn't ready yet. It's like lighting a match on a cold surface. The spark flickers, but it can't sustain a flame. Warm the surface first, and that same spark becomes fire. The warmth, in this case, comes from emotional and physiological readiness. Readiness you help create by slowing down and leading with calm confidence. When that readiness is ignored, it leads to frustration on both sides. She might feel disconnected or pressured. You might feel unappreciated or unsure. The cycle repeats, and both begin to equate intimacy with anxiety rather than connection. But when you understand her process, everything changes. You stop trying to force an outcome, and instead, you guide a rhythm. That rhythm, the subtle exchange between breath, attention, and touch, is what creates the harmony that true foreplay depends on. Unfortunately, many men rely on patterns that backfire without them realizing it. They might begin directly with oral stimulation, believing that it's what women universally want. But if her body isn't already primed, that kind of stimulation can feel more clinical than pleasurable. The tissues aren't yet engorged, sensitivity isn't heightened, and the result is pressure rather than pleasure. Oral contact should bridge desire, not initiate it. When done too soon, it becomes mechanical rather than sensual. Another mistake is the tendency to be overly gentle. Men often equate gentleness with romance, but when touch is too light, it fails to register as arousal. The skin's nerve endings need texture and variation, pressure, rhythm, intention, to signal the brain that touch is purposeful. A feather-light stroke can feel ticklish or distant, not intimate. On the other hand, a rough or abrupt touch can break trust instantly. The ideal is a living touch, one that adapts moment by moment, firm yet fluid, confident yet curious. Then there's the common reliance on massage. While massage can relax her physically, it can also anchor her in a state of calm rather than arousal. Relaxation and excitement are distinct physiological states. If the goal is connection, the transition from relaxation to desire must be gradual. Massage can be part of that transition, but it should evolve. Let the energy shift from soothing to sensual, from comfort to stimulation. The difference lies in rhythm, breathing, and the intention behind your touch. And finally, there's overthinking, filling the space with words, compliments, or jokes that keep her mind active. Intimacy thrives when thought fades. If she's thinking about what you're saying, analyzing what it means, or feeling the need to respond, she isn't surrendering to sensation. True arousal doesn't live in the mind. It emerges when the mind quiets, when awareness drifts from language to feeling. The key, then, is to create moments that silence thought and amplify presence. Once you stop making these mistakes, her body starts to respond almost automatically. Because when you remove the barriers to arousal, her biology takes over. The body knows what to do. It's been wired for connection since birth. Your job isn't to force it, it's to remove the conditions that block it. This brings us to what truly works, what consistently creates connection and builds desire no matter your age or experience. It's not a single act or position. It's a rhythm, something best described as the full body flow. Instead of isolating one area, you engage her entire sensory landscape. Your body becomes an instrument of warmth and motion, your chest, your stomach, your hands, your breath, all in harmony. You move with continuity, as if every motion blends into the next. It's not about poking or performing. It's about enveloping, surrounding her in sensation that tells her nervous system, you're safe, you're wanted, you can let go. Biologically, this approach works because a woman's skin is her largest sexual organ. Every inch carries sensory receptors that speak directly to her brain. When you stimulate her across multiple areas at once, the sides, back, thighs, stomach, you're sending a cascade of signals that flood the nervous system. Those signals merge, and her body interprets them as deep readiness. Blood flow increases, hormones align, and arousal builds layer by layer, not by command but by instinct. Equally powerful is the emotional message carried through this contact. When you touch her with your whole body rather than focusing only on sexual zones, you're telling her something profound. You desire her as a person, not just a body. That sense of being fully desired emotionally and physically creates a release no technique alone can replicate. When safety and desire converge, resistance dissolves. Her body opens. The experience becomes mutual, natural, alive. To apply this rhythm, begin before touch even happens. Slow your breathing, steady your focus, and meet her eyes without agenda. That calm presence signals that you're grounded. From there, create multiple points of contact. Don't limit yourself to your hands. Let your chest brush her skin, your breath warm her neck, your thighs graze hers. Layer sensations. Use contrast, soft against firm, stillness against movement, to awaken her awareness. Variety is essential. If your touch becomes predictable, the brain stops noticing. Shift pressure and pace. Sometimes pause completely, letting anticipation build. Other times, move with steady confidence. Watch her responses closely, the change in her breath, the subtle tilt of her hips, the quiet exhale. Those are the cues that guide you. When you respond to them, instead of following a mental checklist, you transform from performing to connecting. No matter how well you learn this, though, routine can dull anything over time. Human intimacy thrives on curiosity, not repetition. Every night, every encounter, every mood is slightly different. That's why adaptability is key. Notice her energy that evening. Is she playful? Reflect that. Is she quiet and introspective? Match her pace. Authentic connection arises when your energy mirrors hers, not when you impose a pattern. Equally important is emotional variety. Sometimes foreplay is tender and affectionate, other times it's passionate or teasing. Both are valuable. Switching emotional tones keeps intimacy alive. You don't have to plan the change, it will happen naturally if you stay aware and honest. And remember, presence doesn't end with touch. It's also in how you close the moment. After intimacy, the quiet connection matters just as much as the act itself. Gentle conversation, shared breathing, or simple stillness reinforces the sense of safety and trust that allows desire to grow deeper over time. Now, there's another layer to this discussion that many men overlook: the physical foundation behind performance. Desire is mental and emotional, but its expression depends on the body's circulation and energy. As men age, it's common to notice a gradual decline in stamina, firmness, or sensitivity. It's tempting to blame age, but the real issue is often circulation. The blood vessels that once expanded easily begin to lose elasticity. That affects not only intimacy, but overall vitality, energy, focus, and mood. The key to reversing that trend lies in restoring nitric oxide levels, a molecule the body produces to relax and open blood vessels. When nitric oxide flows freely, so does blood, and with it comes energy, responsiveness, and control. You can boost this naturally through nutrition foods rich in L-citrulline and L-arginine, such as watermelon, beets, spinach, and other leafy greens. Regular exercise, deep breathing, and proper hydration also enhance vascular flexibility. Within weeks of consistent care, men often report not only better performance, but greater confidence and emotional steadiness. That confidence is essential because it shifts your focus from anxiety to presence. When you trust your body, your mind relaxes. And when your mind relaxes, your partner feels it. That calm confidence creates an atmosphere where connection thrives. Intimacy then becomes effortless, no longer a task but a dance, natural, flowing, and deeply satisfying. It's important to understand that none of this is about chasing youth or perfection. It's about reclaiming balance between mind and body, between effort and awareness. Passion doesn't fade with age, it matures. It becomes more grounded, more intentional, more meaningful. When you bring that maturity into your relationship, you're not just reigniting desire, you're deepening love itself. Gentlemen, intimacy isn't a game of performance. It's a conversation without words. Every touch, every breath, every pause communicates something. The more fluent you become in that unspoken language, the stronger your bond grows. Foreplay isn't about tricks, it's about understanding. Confidence isn't about control, it's about calm. And connection isn't about doing more, it's about being fully present. So if you felt disconnected, uncertain, or frustrated, remember this: you're not broken, and you're not too late. Your body still knows how to feel. Your partner still wants to be seen. All that's required is awareness, patience, and a willingness to relearn what it means to connect. When you focus less on performing and more on listening with your hands, your eyes, your breath, you'll notice something extraordinary. Her responses will guide you more clearly than any instruction ever could. Reclaim that awareness, practice the rhythm of presence, and treat every moment of intimacy as a shared experience rather than a goal. Because in the end, great foreplay isn't about what you do, it's about how you make her feel. It's about reminding her that she's desired, safe, and free to express herself fully. And when she feels that, when her body and mind align in trust and anticipation, that's when real passion begins. Not the kind that fades, but the kind that deepens over time. Gentlemen, connection is not an art of performance. It is the science of awareness, the psychology of safety, and the poetry of touch. When you learn to combine all three, you will discover that intimacy doesn't diminish with age, it evolves into something richer, deeper, and infinitely more rewarding.